These projects, ladies and gentlemen, have become channels for siphoning public funds, further entrenching a kleptocratic system that prioritizes elite interests over national development. Our alternative budget priority areas, ladies and gentlemen, are grounded in the principles of equity, fiscal responsibility, and public accountability. We are committed to realigning Uganda's financial priorities to serve the people of Uganda. And that's specifically why we are bothered about some of these very odd projects that I've just mentioned about. In the past couple of months, as the opposition, we've been going to these various projects, Atiak Sugar, Day Biopharma, Inspire Coffee Africa, Rocco Construction Limited. Billions of shillings have been injected into these projects, and not much is happening. What's even more problematic is that government gives taxpayers money to these projects. There's no memorandum of understanding at all. Then government says we are buying shares in these companies. When you ask what's the value, what's the worth of this company, that has not been ascertained. So that shows you the confusion within which government operates. And whenever we mention these things on the floor, I've had people like the Honorable Nabanja say we are making government look bad, forgetting that government looks bad on its own accord. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic outlook for the 2025-2026 financial year remains uncertain. Uganda's total budget has been projected at 71.9 trillion shillings. Persistent fiscal indiscipline, excessive borrowing, and corruption have put immense pressure on our economy. The high cost of debt servicing, which consumes over 30% of our budget, has left little room for investment in critical sectors. Inflation remains a huge concern, with rising prices of essential commodities such as food, fuel, and healthcare. Meanwhile, revenue collection remains suboptimal due to inefficiencies in tax administration, revenue leakages, and inadequate enforcement of tax policies. Our people deserve a budget that works for them, not one that burdens them with unnecessary taxes and then poor service delivery. It's one thing for you to tax the population. It's another for that tax money to be of value to the people of Uganda. As I'm sure many of you know, there are countries where the citizenry pay hefty sums in tax, but they know that when they go to hospital, they'll get good quality medication, courtesy of the government. When they take their children to public schools, they'll attain quality education. The infrastructure is worked on. So the taxpayer knows that when I pay heavily in tax, what is left is really for me. That's not the case for Ugandans. You'll pay heavily in tax, but when you're sick, you'll have to go to private facility for those that can afford, because there is not much in the public ones. You'll have to take your child to a good school for those that can afford, because the UPE schools are tenement structures about to collapse. You see the state of our roads. So we are saying there must be value for taxpayers' money. Let me talk a bit about some key sectoral priorities. And ladies and gentlemen, we have availed two booklets to you. One is a compendium of our alternative budget priority areas, highlighting what we do propose, what we would do had we been the ones in power. And like I said, this has been a consultative process to see to it that we get the views of different political parties, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders, so that it's not just our budget, but it is reflective of the people of Uganda. I want to encourage us to find time and read those books and even critique them.